Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone is safe and taking care. My name is Pranali Raut from Nuremberg, Messe, India, and I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you at the A.B.I.S Knowledge Summit. Asia's Broadcasting and Infotainment Show, or A.B.I.S, comprises of the Broadcast India Show, SCAT Trade Show, and the Content India Show. At the A.B.I.S Knowledge Summit, we hope you have been enjoying our sessions over the last 2 days, and we look forward to bringing you some engaging discussions and interesting fireside chats today. Welcome back to all of you. Let's get right to our session on creating blockbuster animation content and driving the business with Mr. Jayakumar and Mr. Kireet Khurana. A distinguished figure and a much admired thought leader in the media and entertainment industry, Mr. Jayakumar has spearheaded the success story of one of Asia's most pioneering animation studios, Toonz Media Group. Joining Toonz as the Chief Finance Officer, Mr. Jayakumar went on to take additional responsibility as the Chief Operating Officer before taking up the reins of the organizations as CEO in 2003. Under his inspirational leadership, Toonz expanded from its home ground in India, growing its global footprint, diversifying business, and making strategic international acquisitions. Today, Toonz has emerged as a global force in kids and family entertainment and a one-stop shop for content production, distribution, and digital media exploitation. In conversation with Mr. Jayakumar today is Mr. Kireet Khurana, animator and filmmaker. Mr. Khurana is a high honors graduate from Sheridan College, Canada. He has won 6 President's National Awards and 15 international awards for his cinematic works, besides many others. His notable directorial works include feature film Tea for Taj Mahal, a docu-feature called Saeed Mirza, the Leftist Sufi, Komal, and India's first live-action and 3D animation combination feature film, Toonpur Ka Superhero, featuring Ajay Devgan and Kajol. He has made over 20 short films on various social causes, including shorts for the National Film Board of Canada, besides making over 500 ad films for leading brands and agencies. Before we start, we'd like to take a look at a short video from the media group, Toonz Media Group. Great. So before I hand over the screen to Mr. Jayakumar and Mr. Khurana, just one note to all our attendees. We will be having a Q&A at the end of this. So please feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Kireet, the screen is all yours.
Thank you, Pranali, and thank you all for being here. It's a wonderful Saturday morning, and it's a great pleasure to have you all with us over here. Hi, Jaya, how are you?
Very good, Kireet. How are you?
Okay, good. Wonderful video, and the kind of work that you've been doing over the years has been very fascinating and inspiring for all of us over here. Of course, Toonz is no longer a company, as it started off in '97, I think, around the same time that I started. And it's a behemoth now. It's a huge, almost an empire that you are really setting it up. So tell me a little bit about how you started your journey and what really happened. I know that initial days, Bill Dennis was involved, and you were also involved, of course, but you were working under Bill Dennis, and then subsequently you took over the reins, and now, of course, it's really grown by leaps and bounds since you have taken over. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Right. But first of all, thank you very much for the organizers for the opportunity, and good morning, everyone. Kireet, I mean, you know, because you have been almost involved in throughout our journey. So we established the studio way back in 1999. So under the leadership of our visionary chairman, Mr. G.A. Menon. So Mr. G.A. Menon was working for a family in Switzerland in their electronics businesses. That is what he was basically doing. And one day, this is a story he told me. One day he basically saw a newspaper article on Los Angeles Times, and in that article it was talking about how animation is becoming a big industry in Southeast Asia, and a lot of works from North American studios are going to these countries. So this was the article, and this basically has given him an idea that why don't we start a animation studio. At that particular point in time, he told me that he was not sure whether India is the right place, but his idea was just to start in Southeast Asia. And then that search actually reached to a person named Bill Dennis, and Bill at that particular point in time. And Bill is a Disney veteran. He was with Disney for around 20 years in their feature division. But after that, he was running a large studio in Philippines called Hanna-Barbera Studios. So these Hanna-Barbera Studios, Philippines, was one of the Asia's largest studio at that particular point in time. So Mr. Menon established a connection with him and explored the possibility of building up an animation studio in Southeast Asia. And they have actually traveled many parts of, including Taiwan, Philippines, and many other parts. Finally, they zeroed on to India, Trivandrum. And I believe, probably Mr. Menon set it up that way because he is originally from Kerala. And much of his career, he was in US and Singapore and many other countries. And probably at that particular point in time, he wanted to do something back to the community. And he also told me that one thing he realized is that Kerala is also a place where a lot of artistic talents are available. So that actually propelled him to start the studio in Trivandrum. That time was a bit early because animation was not a sector in India at that particular point in time. People like Ram Mohan and UTV Toonz. So, but very small number of studios existed at that particular point in time. So India was not regarded as an animation hub at that particular point in time. We are also one of the first companies to be established in Technopark in Trivandrum. Currently, which is one of the Technopark in Trivandrum is one of the first Technopark in the country. And currently, it is also one of the largest in Asia. And today, it is very large. When we started the studio, Technopark altogether probably around 2,000 people working in the studio in Technopark. Today, with around 270 companies, around 100,000 people working in the park also. So it was an exciting journey. My background, I joined the team from day zero before we started the company as the finance, because my background is finance. I joined as a CFO. I had an opportunity to work with some wonderful group of people. At that particular point in time, because the vision of Mr. Menon was to establish a global studio. So what he did is he organized a group of international talent. So Bill was the CEO, Kathy Pesa, she was the studio manager for Hanna-Barbera. So she joined as our studio manager from Philippines. We have a creative director called Subra from Singapore. And a lot of people, all department heads were foreigners. So I was the only one in the management team. So at a certain point in time, our investors basically asked me to look at the operations because they wanted to make sure that the local culture and local things are taken care of. So I have transitioned into the chief operating officer in 2000 in a year's time. And when Mr. Menon passed away in 2003, unfortunately, at that particular point in time, the investors wanted me to take over from Bill Dennis. And from that point onwards, I'm continuing.
Fabulous. What an illustrious journey this has been, and fantastic. And there's one word or one phrase that you use, is that he wanted to help the community. And this is the kind of service to the community is something that I saw as a theme in Toonz, that you are a big stakeholder in the education sector. You're a big stakeholder in helping the community, and you're extremely helpful for the people who do not know Jaya directly. And I know him personally as well, and I've had the honor to know him personally. And right from beginning, right from the culture of Toonz has been to help to get everybody together to, be part of the ecosystem. And one of the initiatives that you took, obviously, along with Bill, was to start the Week with the Masters, where you called in people from across the world. Remember, this was a time, I want to tell our young animators, the young aspiring animators, this was a time that India was not considered to be an animation hub. So whatever Jaya has done, whatever others have done in this space is actually, opened up an entire industry and created an entire industry. In the late 90s, there was no industry. And to get people from across the world, the top names of animation across the world, of course, now they come regularly, but that was a novelty at that time with the animation, with the Week with the Masters, and then of course the Animation Masters Summit, of which I've also been part of. So tell us a little bit more about your commitment to give back to the society, in terms of the fact that to give back to the industry and build an ecosystem. I think the sharing has been wonderful. You've been very, very secure in your skin, in sharing information, sharing knowledge, spreading the love, and spreading, sharing whatever you've got. It's very beautiful. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, thank you, Kireet. Yeah, you're right. I think that was part of our DNA, giving back to the community. And I think that DNA started with Bill. So when the studio was formed, one of the things we realized is that the problem with the talent. And our vision was to establish, our vision was not to just catering to the domestic customers. Our vision was to basically establish a global studio. In order to cater to the global studios, you definitely need skilled manpower. And one of the major problems we found at the very early days is that the skill sets are not available in scale. The raw talent are available, but the skill set for the animation to produce at a global level was not available. So one of the things we have done is we basically invested heavily into training, which I will explain later. Very, very heavily into training, and we also thought that we need to create a platform for Indian aspiring animators and animation enthusiasts to come and actually have a knowledge sharing with the veterans from this. And until then, there was not even a event which I am aware of about at the scale of Animation Master Summit. So the idea was to bring all these masters to a platform and then allow people to come and interact with them. This was our flagship, event, and it is a free event. It is a free public event. This was not for Toonz artists. We welcomed everyone to come in and talk with the people. Over the years, we have hosted stalwarts like Star Wars director Rob Coleman, Bill Plimpton, Academy Award nominee and BAFTA winner Shekhar Kapoor, later Rasul Pokuti, Jean-Marie Olivier, and you yourself were part of that, Ajit Rao. There's a lot of, later stage, when India also emerged as a major hub, we also wanted to include the emerging masters from the country as well. So we brought in all these kind of people, and it costed a lot of money for us, but our objective was very clear. Objective was to provide the opportunity for Indian animators, to interact with these masters and enhance their knowledge. The second thing we also done is that in 2001, we conducted our first children's animation workshop. What we have done is, one of the things we also found at that particular point in time, not very, top. I mean, there was a reluctance from parents, at least in Kerala, we have seen that at the very early days. I mean, today that has all gone. But at the early days, parents didn't wanted their children to go to the creative careers. So one of the major problem was to create awareness at the very early stage itself. So we come up with a thing called the Children's Animation Workshop. We joined with a local channel called AsiaNet, which is the #1 channel here. And we conducted a campaign, and we asked all the kids in Kerala to send their story ideas. We got around thousands of entries, and from that we selected 10. And these 10 kids, we invited these kids during their school vacation, summer vacation, 2 months. They spent their time in our studio with our artist. We allowed these kids to direct their short movies. These are 2 to 3 minute movies. And these 10 films, then what we did is on the Children's Day on November 14, AsiaNet actually aired these movies. So that was a kind of a big thing for these kids. Not only they directed their own movie, it was kind of broadcasted. We have done one more thing. We submitted these films in all major film festivals in the world, and almost every film won several international awards. This was very good. And then we taken it to nationally. We worked with Cartoon Network 1 year. We worked with Disney 1 year. We worked with Sony another year. With the Disney, it was a major event called Kahani Masters. This time we gone all over India. We brought in kids from various parts of India, brought them to the studio. The challenge was to bring them for 2 months. So we kind of skews the timeline to 7 days, but we brought in their parents as well. I mean, this was all fantastic, kind of experiences for us as well.
I remember seeing the films, and I was very impressed with the kind of work that children had done. It was really impressive, and it was something great. I think all kudos to you and your commitment of your team. Let's come to the studio, the global studio. How did you actually create a studio that became a global studio? How did you get the acquisitions, and how did you create the global footprint, so to speak, for Toonz?
Right. I think, initially, I think it is again, I need to definitely thank Mr. Menon and our investors believing in our vision and solidly supporting us. Because during the initial years, because, this was a very new industry and we were all learning by ourselves, there was nobody to learn from. So we also did a lot of stupid mistakes, but during the difficult times, the investors, stood very firmly with us. And, I would also think, all the people over a period of time work very closely with us, whether it is Bill, or Mohan and Kathy, all the people, some of them left in between, but I think the vision, stood very clear that, we wanted to be a global studio. So initially, we were designed as an animation work for hire studio. This was the initial thought process of Mr. Menon. And it was a very challenging task because the productivity was not there, because we were a 2D animation studio. And at that particular point in time, only 2D animation was prevalent. When I took over and I did a critical analysis of the situation, 2 things I realized. Number one, I realized is that if we continue to do a service studio, we are going to make probably some marginal profits, but we are not going to make any significant value for the company. That was one realization I made. A second realization I made is that, so the second realization is that I wanted to convert a major portion of our people into the I'm sorry about that. There is some
no problem. I'd like to interrupt here, and basically we have a younger audience, and we have an audience that is aspiring to be animators and aspiring to have their own studios. I want to just fill in with what Jaya said, that India was actually historically, India started off as being a back-end office for animation studios or animation companies across the world, and the transition from being a back-end office to actually creating your own IPs and owning them. One of the most successful companies has been Toonz in this. So, this is the perspective that is being offered, that if you really want to succeed in the animation industry, you cannot be a service provider. You have to go up the value chain, create your own stories that are globally resonant, tie up with international co-producers, and see how you can create value for your company. Yes, sorry, there. Go ahead.
And so, thank you very much, Kireet. And sorry for that kind of thing. So second thing what we did is we converted a majority of our 2D animators to CGI, right? This is the second thing I've done. I think these two things really paved the way to, to leapfrog from where we were until 2003, and then, kind of grown. The first thing we have done, again, there's a lot of challenges, because from an IP, there was no Indian studio was doing any, kind of IP at a larger scale. And for us to go and convince a North American company or a studio, it was a big problem. So what we did is we have decided to go a low-hanging fruit. And this was also a challenge. We decided to start one IP for the local market called Tenali Ram, right? And at that particular point in time, there was no other local animation which was in the market. So, but we wanted to take and we always believed that because India at some point in time will be a big market for animation. So we decided to, kind of take the leadership, and we have done Tenali Raman end to end in our studio. So right from ideation to, kind of scripting and the pre-production, production, everything we have done. I mean, I think probably for voiceovers and, mixing and post, we might have used third-party studios, but all other things we have done. And it became a very good success, and it became a, flag bearer of Indian animation for a long period of time. It was those days, it was not a very easy thing to handle, because Indian market was not prepared to accept the cost of high quality animation at that particular point in time. But what that gave us is a confidence of and our ability to actually come up with IPs, intellectual properties. But again, we were not sure whether we are ready to do international IP. So what we have decided is again to do a co-production. Our first co-production was, I was very lucky at that particular point in time, the Hallmark group, the card group from New York, they started their kids division, and their first project was a project called Finley the Fire Truck. So this particular project, I was able to sit with them. I quite liked the concept, and I thought it was it probably can become an international project. So we decided to partner with them at a very, very early stage, at the development stage. We decided to invest in that particular property. Luckily, we also got BBC on board as an anchor broadcaster for UK. We also got another investor called Isle of Man Film Fund. It's a sovereign fund from a small island country in UK. They came on board. We got those days one of the major animation distributor, Hit Entertainment, and we also got Mattel as a toy partner. So this was a dream come true for a first time, kind of a co-production, that idea. And that project became a big success. It was broadcasted in around 150 plus countries. Mattel came up with the toy, kind of things. And even today, I think, because Hit Entertainment became DreamWorks Television now. And it is even today, they distribute the project. So that exposure, that experience and success has given us a huge boost, and then also an investor confidence. in terms of further investing into kind of things. And from that point onwards, we have invested in several co-productions, international co-productions. In fact, we work with almost all major studios in the US, including Universal, Sony, Paramount Pictures, Disney, Warner Brothers, everyone, and also all major European broadcasters like BBC, France Television, Television Española, IPTV, almost every major broadcaster around the world. So this is, I would say one major, kind of things. And then in 2010, after that, we also wanted to go, and expand. We expanded our footprint across the globe, opening offices for production, financing, and distribution hub in strategic cities and territories across the world. Because one of the problem in our business, and this is more of a business issue, one of the problem is that many countries offer huge incentives for this business, like Canada, France, earlier Malaysia, Singapore, many countries. So very, very difficult for a country like India. We have only cost arbitrage. Our costs are relatively lesser. Other than that, we don't have any incentives and all. So unless you establish hubs in these kind of places, you cannot play a major global role. And that was one issue. Second one, we thought we can play a major role in the emerging market, because there is nothing we can do in the US, because there is already large established players and they are masters. But we thought that we can do a major role in emerging market. And this is also a business reason, because, if you really look at India, let us take India and the US as a comparison. US, when we started the company, a half-an-hour show, we used to get $100,000 per episode. Today, you are lucky if you get $30,000, $40,000. So the license fees drastically come down in matured markets. But compared to India, when we started Tenali Raman, we used to get $3,500 per episode. Today, you get $30,000, $40,000. So India grown tenfold in these 20 years. US and matured markets drastically come down in terms of license fee, right?
Correct.
So this is one, kind of trend which is across emerging market. If you look at Latin America, Arabia, Africa, all these, Indonesia, all these kind of markets grown significantly. I mean, that doesn't mean that the matured markets are not important. They are very important. They are still major revenue. But if you really take a 10-year outlook downward, right, what is happening in these matured markets, all the matured markets, our population growth is coming very low. So, so in fact, in many countries, it is negative population growth. Europe population will shrink 4% per year. So that means in 10 years' time, Europe's kids population will shrink to 60%. Or 40% shrink is expected in 10 years. Japan is already there. Now all the matured markets are there. The place where the population growth is very significant is countries like India, China, Indonesia, and many countries like Arabia. So these are all emerging markets. So we wanted to focus on emerging markets. So as a result, the first acquisition we have done in 2014, a company called A.B.I.S Entertainment, which is a leading Spanish production and distribution company. That gave us a very major part, which is distribution capability and also production capability in for the Spanish-speaking territory, which is the second largest language, after English in the world, right? So that given us, and plus Spain offers, anywhere from 30 to 50% incentives, when you produce. In 2019, we acquired majority stakes in another large company called Telige, an Emmy award-winning full-service Irish production house, which makes both animated and live-action kids content for global networks and studios. Their large live-action facilities also broadened the production scope for Toonz, so we can now do live-action production in Europe. We then established Toonz New Zealand and Toonz Turkey, which focus on production and distribution with Australasian market and Middle Eastern market, respectively. So all these acquisitions, organic and inorganic, kind of things we have done which actually propelled us, to a global prominence. And today we are acknowledged as one of the largest and most diverse media companies in Asia and probably in the world as well.
No, it's absolutely fantastic and very, very commendable. For all those who are just coming into this industry, you should know that, it takes 20 years of hard work to become an overnight success. And that's what you're looking at right now. The struggle for each one of us in this industry has been unique, and it has been very, very severe. And I think Jaya has been he has the foresight to actually invest in IP, to invest in creating IP. So the investment part, and I really commend your investors there. I mean, they had belief in you. They completely trusted you. I know that you burnt a lot of cash initially, and some decisions, obviously, because you're treading into an area or a domain which is not been there is no roadmap there. So what you've actually done is made it easier for all the younger people who want to start studios and collaborate, because the trust has been built by companies like Toonz to be able to deliver, to be able to stick to international norms, to be able to collaborate. All these things, these paradigms, these processes have been already laid now, and so it becomes a lot more easier for other people to get in. Yeah, we have a lot of questions, so if we can keep the answers a little shorter, because we're getting some amazing questions as well right now from which we will address later on. But approximately how many IPs do you have now under your belt, and which is the one that you consider is the most valuable for yourself, and which is the one that you feel that this is closest to my heart?
Right. Our library is quite large now because of the acquisition of I.P.T.V. We currently have a library of around 1,500 hours of content, animation content. So which is quite large. I would say that the most popular one, and also we probably kind of got most commercial success is Wolverine and X-Men, which is the Marvel project, which we produced with again with BBC, and it became a global hit, and it was a huge commercial success. And the second one I would say is a movie which we made, actually not one, 3 movies we made, called Mostly Ghostly. This is a soft horror kind of genre. This is based on a book written by a very, very famous children's writer called R.L. Stein.
Again, sorry to interrupt you. I think all of us would be interested in knowing which are the Indian stories that you have been able to take globally and successfully imprinted globally as well. I mean, some of the Indian IPs, like you mentioned about Tenali, right? Around the same time, we had exactly around the same time, we also made Chota Birbal. I made Chota Birbal. But I think for a lot of us, the real success will be the Indian success story, which is we're not latching onto an X-Man, which is already an IP, and investing in it. But from a storytelling perspective, if I have a story, let's say if I'm a beginner, I'm an animation filmmaker, and I want to now, I think I have a unique story and I want to take it to the world. Do you have success? What are your success stories on that?
Yeah, I can tell you that there is one project which we have done with Nickelodeon for India. This was a co-production. This was an out and out in Indian story called Pakdam Pakdai, right? So this, I think we have produced probably 11, 12 seasons. We produced around 500 plus episodes. We are still producing called Pakdam Pakdai. This is this is very much meant for Indian market. What we have done is we done very, very minimal changes into it. We basically brought in a slightly different music, and we changed the name to Rat-a-tat, right? And then we gone global. And one great thing is that we sold almost in every country this particular title. And And then we also put this into our YouTube channel. And we have a one channel called Toonz YouTube channel, which is a global leader in the slapstick comedy segment, which basically gets around anywhere from 250 million to 500 million a month views.
Wow.
And Toonz, the driver property is still rat-a-tat. Wow. And there is another property we have also created with Sanjeev Wayarkar called Cat and Keet. This was actually called Bundy or Billy. Right? This project with Sanjeev, we created for Disney. And this is also we changed to Cat and Keet for international audience. So these two together bring in a significant audience. As I told you, around 18 million subscribers plus around anywhere from 250 to 500 million monthly views on the channels, and a significant revenue earner, kind of thing. So I think we got success in these kind of things. My suggestion to our kind of storytellers is that either you make story for your audience, if that is what you are more comfortable with. But if you're talking about the international audience, many of our kind of stories, complex stories, Western audience, it's very difficult to understand. But if you take simple themes and then develop kind of stories around very universal themes and plots, then I think I'm pretty sure that we will be able to find big success. Let's look at Lion King, or Finding Nemo, or any of these kind of things. So fundamentally, when you really look at the root of it, Lion King and Finding Nemo are two projects which basically talk about the love between father and the son. Correct. And which I believe is a very universal theme, whether it is in India, China, or any country. The love between the father and son is a very universal theme. Right. And then when you really come up with a story which talks about that transcend culture, transcend region, and everything. So I think we need to come up with those kind of universal themes which anybody can easily understand. Correct. And then we probably use good writers who understand global market and all.
Yeah. So I completely concur with you there. I think the way forward to create stories that travel, that reach out to a global audience, that resonate with everybody, is to build it around a strong universal theme, and that is very important. And of course, one mustn't, one must give due weightage to the fact that you need to be a great storyteller. You need to be knowing the craft of script writing. You need to be knowing the craft of filmmaking. You need to be knowing the craft of animation to be able to successfully build an IP or even to make a bid for it. So I think, Jaya, are you open to collaboration with young people, and
absolutely.
How can they reach you? Let's say if I am watching this show and I want to reach you, and I think I have a next big idea. Is there somebody in your team that they can reach out to?
Anybody can reach out to me. Basically, how we work is, there is a submission release form. It's a legal formality we have because we are getting a lot of content, so we wanted to have. So we ask the content creators to sign that, and after that, we have a committee which basically look at this kind of content. So we have a committee for India, we have a committee for global projects, and this committee, if it is an Indian committee, it will not take more than 15 days. Yeah. It's a global project. It will take around 30 to 45 days because our committee only do once in a month. And then we will immediately let them know whether this is something which we are interested. And if we are interested, we are very open for various types of collaboration. We are open for working with them and then investing 100% into it. Or if that is a studio or another group, we are okay for 50-50 partnerships. We are very collaborative in approach.
Right. Fabulous. No, I have seen that myself. I've experienced that myself. So I can request Sangeeta, who's part of your team, to actually put in the email ID on the chat for everybody to kind of send their projects in so that everybody can reach out. Coming to the pandemic, I had one last question before before we get into the Q&A. I want you to quickly tell me, the pandemic has been transformative for most people, and I think even in that you capitalized it and you made Right Brain, and of course it's an extension of Toonz Academy. So your impetus in education has actually been stronger because you realize there's an opportunity to go the online training or the online education route.
Right.
Tell us very, very quickly what about, a little bit more about that before we get into the Q&A.
Right. No, you are absolutely right. I think the academy, we have a physical academy called Toonz Academy. During the pandemic, we have to, shut it down due to COVID protocols. That actually, forced us to thought about how do we basically take this to the, and how can we really also go global? That was our thing. And online, immediately has given us an opportunity. So we expand our vision a little bit. Our vision is, it is a small start, Kireet, right now, but our vision is to become Right Brain, to become a global go-to platform for all creative courses. And this will be now, really launched in a very few days' time. We already had a soft launch. So we are looking at Right Brain in a very big way. Currently, we are already working with some of the schools in the Middle East and some of the schools in India. But very soon, after the initial, kind of launch, we are definitely going global on that. We also launched our own OTT platform called MyToonz during this time. And this is also a global. We are already in almost all the major connected TV platforms. We are in Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Roku, Samsung TV. We are in India. We are with Airtel. We are in Etisalat in UAE. So that platform is also, kind of working very well. We started very recently. We started our platform business in Dubai called Toonz Media Networks. We are starting a channel in Indonesia from 1st of November onwards, and also a channel in Middle East, a channel in Pakistan, and other channels in the coming months in other geographies. When I say channels, these are linear channels. And then there are OTTs with telcos.
Wow, that's quite a fabulous thing. Well, there's a lot of things on your plate right now.
Yes.
Fabulous. Congratulations. Okay, so I'm going to take the questions in. I think the first question is relating to the OTT platforms. Has it resulted in any major blockbuster animation movie being released? Or have we seen any seismic shift towards large-scale adoption of animation content of the OTT channels? I think it's a more general question. That has the presence of OTT channels made any significant difference to the animation space?
Yeah. So I talked to many people, the OTT players all around the world. One of the areas where they had a significant eyeballs increase is the kids content, because kids are all sitting at home, right? And everyone had, across the board, across the world, everyone had a very significant eyeballs. In fact, many of because the value of these OTT platform is also their user base. It's not just the money they generate. It is also the user base they create. So on that particular point, I think the kids content has significantly added to almost all the OTT platforms. So every OTT platform have either they have or they wanted to have a kids kind of an offering. And, it also depends on larger players obviously have kind of deals with larger content manufacturers like Disney and all, so that they will be able to get, very premium titles. Our OTT platform are predominantly our library, but we also, on various geographies, we also bring in around 20% premium content from outside the content producers, because our content may not be the right content in every territory. So we basically make it independent. The programming managers can independently take a decision which content they wanted to acquire for that territory.
So great. We have barely a minute left, and I was going to squeeze in one last question. And the question is that the Indian audience has really not taken up to animation movies in a big way. Is that the reason why we have not seen any Indian blockbuster animation movie content being released theatrically in the past few years? I think you can answer that.
I think Kireet, you can also answer that.
I know, but
my feeling is that it's right. I think, at the end of the day, for investors, obviously, they wanted to see result. Unfortunately, Hanuman, which was done at a very lower number.
Right.
Other than that, and probably Chota Bheem and all that, but those are all predominantly done because there is a big time TV, presence. Yeah, cushion.
Yeah.
Independent movies. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a big success
Right.
in India. So that is the only reason. But I believe it's a function of time. Somebody need to take that kind of boldness in terms of. We have seen this with Bahubali, right? We have never seen $100 million, kind of Indian film, and that completely changed the whole, kind of thing. So I'm an eternal optimist.
Yeah.
So I feel that it will happen.
I being the creator of Toonpur, I'll quickly share my perspective on it. That basically there are only 9,000 screens across India, and most of the screens are taken up by the big Friday releases of the Salmans and the Shah Rukhs and the other things, which leaves very little. And the audience is more skewed towards watching that because they somehow perceive animation to be a kid's space. So the audience doesn't want to go to theater to see movies. This is more of a cultural issue that we have in the country, that if it's animation, it's for kids, which needs to change. In internationally, well, I used to go to see, when I was studying there, I saw Lion King there, I saw many other things in the theater, many movies in the theaters, and all adults used to go there. So maybe it's something about the stories, maybe something about our culture, or maybe the fact that we perceive animation to be entirely for kids, and therefore there are very few people who go to the theater that rather watch it in television. So thanks so much, Jaya. I mean, I could talk to you for hours, and I know that you have so much to share. But thank you so much for being there, and it was a wonderful pleasure to speak to you and to know more about your work. And it's really, really awesome, and it's a very somewhat, I'm awestruck with the kind of work that you're doing and the kind of myriad activities that you're doing, and the kind of, so more power to you and more power to Toonz. And we hope to catch up offline one of these days, and till then the online meetings and norm is the norm. So we wish you happiness and stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kireet, and thank you, Manoj, and thank you, Pranali. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kireet and Mr. Jayakumar. I think it's been such an interesting journey, and there's so much more to look forward to. So we're really excited to see what you guys do in the future in the next few years. Thank you all to all our attendees for logging in today.